One. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the National High School Champions League meeting in July, and we have a leader who epitomizes high school soccer, drafted right out of high school into the professional to lead the United States team as a captain for many times, and here he is, Perry Vanderbeck, ladies and gentlemen.
Kevin, thank you so much. Always being colorful. I love it. All right. Okay, so I want to start off by, again, welcoming everybody. Hope you're having a nice 4th of July holiday. I know here in Tampa we got plenty of rain, but anyway, it's always nice to have that holiday. So I'm going to start off, Tim McAvoy. All right. Tim with Select Sports America. If you can give us an update. I think, Tim, you're on here.
I don't see Tim.
No, Tim, I apologize. I'm not seeing you on here. My apologies. Okay, so if Tim does come on, obviously, I'll try to put him to the front. But again, let me start with Dave Wilson with the Tampa Bay report.
I am on it here, so.
Thank you.
There's, obviously the summertime, there's not as much going on, but there are a few different things this year that are going on. First of all, we have started this year, and I know John's on, he was instrumental in starting a second-tier league for us. We're calling it the Concha League. It's Concha Pinellas. Each one of the counties in the 3 counties will eventually have a second-tier league. This is the first one we're going with. It's girls. It's Pinellas County. It's for teams that did not make the Champions League. So it's a second-tier division to be able to play for something during the regular season. It's for teams that are maybe in that second tier and hopefully being able to get up to the first tier eventually. So that's one thing we have going. And I may be able to get that going in Pasco with the boys this year on the west side of Pasco County as well. Besides that, we took a Champions League select team, basically. I reached out to all the coaches that are in the Champions League this year, had them nominate some players. We took a team of players from 7 different teams out of the 12, and we went to the showcase at Plant City FC. Great experience for the boys. They had never played together, obviously, before, but they gelled really quickly, didn't lose a game there. But they had a really good experience, and it was all set up by Siggy getting us into that. And it was a really good experience. We're hopefully to continue to do that and hopefully get a girls team in next year as well. Besides that, that's pretty much it for the Tampa.
That's fantastic, Dave. Thanks. And Ziggy, thank you so much for obviously allowing the players to come and stand that all up. We just take one step after the other. So Ziggy, thank you.
Yeah, it was nice for them to see that standard. The other players. So yeah, they were very cohesive for not having played together at all. They made the game look really, really simple, very effective, technical, and it was nice to see. Nice to see the high schools represented.
Fantastic.
Hey, Dave.
And again, thanks for creating that opportunity.
Dave, how many teams in that second tier of the Champions League?
Well, for each county, we'll probably end up, when we do it, we'll have probably 4 teams in it. There are 4 going forward this year in Pinellas County. I think we will, we can either have 4 or 5, depending on the size of the county. I think if we do it this year with the Pasco, because I still can set up, I have to see the schedules, but it looks like it works out. And we'll probably have 5 teams in the boys' side in Pasco County. So hopefully we'll have Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, boys and girls in the second tier after we get through this first year of experimental, basically.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, very good. Okay, next on the agenda we have the South Florida report. So we have John Walsh. John?
Thanks, Perry. Same as Dave. Summertime's slow and hot and humid down here, so not a whole lot going on. Ready to gear up in the fall. At this point, we got a 24 team, all district winners from down here. Scheduling's been a little more difficult this year because Key West qualified as a district winner, so we've got teams stretching from North Palm Beach County up in Jupiter area all the way down to Key West. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but we got 4 groups, 6 teams each. We'll play. Everyone will play the group play through the holiday break, and we'll come back afterwards and play a semifinal, final, and crown a champion. So that's pretty much where we're at right now.
Well, that's good to hear, and hopefully we'll get the Tampa, South Florida competition going.
Yeah, a lot of people are jumping in, so it's tough to organize because there's a lot of schools that are getting into this, and a lot of people want in because it feels like a good experience for them. So, as I say, one of the problems with growth and expansion.
Yeah. All right, John. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. So from St. Louis, we've got Terry Mickler and Greg Keller on the phone. So one of you guys want to give us an update, or both?
Greg, take it away.
We're just beginning to get into year 2 here shortly. This Thursday we have the 2026 girls pool draw with 16 teams, so that's exciting. The boys will begin September 2nd in pool play and end on September 27th. The finals will be at Creek Court Park Soccer Complex for the boys. In the spring, the girls will be at Maryville University, both hosted last year. And we have sponsors who are rejoining. Hair Saloon is going to pick up the scholarship awards for both boys and girls again. And Fastlane just signed up last week. We also have both boys and girls champions will receive a half quarter zip top courtesy of Sports Print. We will give the boys and girls champions. They awarded them last year as well. And so they'll do the same this year. And that's all we have from St. Louis.
Fantastic. Greg, thanks. So Polk County, Florida.
I have the report for them. Chris couldn't be on tonight.
Okay,
And
thanks.
he just wanted to pass along that they're working on some exciting things. Their new Polk logo is in the final stages and hopes that something that we'll all like. He'll share that as soon as it gets done. Once the logo is complete, they'll launch their first website for their league to promote the league as well.
Okay. Very good. So, with all the coaches that are on the call here, are there any metro areas that I'm missing? No? Okay. So, again, that leaves plenty of time for we got 2 special guests, and we will start off with Jeff Wong. Jeff's company provides support for players and organizations. And I think Jeff got plenty of time here, so take it away. We're all excited.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Perry. And hello to Greg and Terry and Dave, who I've met with before. And Jim's not here, right? It seems like?
No, he's unable to make it. Sorry.
Okay. And if Jim watches the recording, then hello to Jim, too, as well. I'll tell you a little bit about Footballer Plus. I'm going to share my screen. It's requesting.
Here, let me tell you right now. There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Footballer Plus. One of our slogans is from playground to pro, learn from the world's top experts. And Footballer Plus is the premier online football development platform, providing European level development to young players looking for an extra edge without an exorbitant cost. And it's accessed through a Netflix-like user interface that we've developed. And we see ourselves as a one-stop shop that partners with schools, clubs, academies, and associations offering supplemental weekly online masterclasses that are live from Europe and on-demand courses and training from top-tier experts. Some hail from the most prestigious clubs and academies in Europe, like Chelsea FC, FC Barcelona, PSG FC, FC Bayern Munich, Manchester City FC, Juventus FC, and others. And our experts have verified licenses up to UEFA Pro and degrees up to PhDs. This platform was a father-son project co-founded by me and my son who's doing a gap year. My son is Lucas here on the left, and he's an aspiring pro player. He had that dream when he was young. I'll talk about that in a moment. Actually, it says Germany on the bottom, but he just came back from Germany, and my name is Jeff Jeff Wong. I'm the co-founder and acting as CEO, and I'm a former college athlete. Although I didn't play soccer, I played volleyball. But to me, those are some of the best years of athletics in my life, and I loved everything about the high school athletics, and then going to championships, and the school spirit that's behind that, and the development of confidence and fun and love for the game that you play. And so for me as a father, I wanted to support what my son was playing, and he chose to play football or soccer. The story, growing up in Vancouver, Canada, when Lucas was 7, he dreamed of becoming a pro footballer. But he faced a challenge. And that challenge here in Vancouver, Canada, was access to top-level coaching and resources and pathways like European players have.
Hey, Jeff.
So determine...
I don't think your screen is shared. I don't know if you're relying on us to...
Well, it's not... Oh, it's not being shared?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you for that interruption.
Yeah, thanks. See.
Let me go back a couple
There
of
we go.
screens.
There we go. Thank you.
Not to totally recap everything, but this is what I was sharing through, and I didn't know I wasn't sharing it with you guys. And my apologies here. And this is my son Lucas.
Yeah, I saw him on the video.
So determined to bridge this gap, me and my son sought European expertise online for him, for his own development. And now we're launching Footballer Plus, a platform that connects young players with top experts from around the globe through their computers and mobile devices. We inspire and educate the next generation across the planet with fun and engaging and familiar ways. This is an example of one of the programs. It's a performance nutrition program, and it's just awesome for young players to have access to the performance nutritionist from Manchester City. When we first got together with Daniel, he was working with the 200 academy players from Manchester City. He's since been promoted to the first team, and so by providing a platform like this, we give access to everyday players around the world to someone at this level who does performance nutrition for Holland and other players on Manchester City. We also have a program on here for speed from Coach Karsten, he's the owner of Tanner Speed Academy in Sweden. Here's an example of another expert on the platform, Coach Mike Nielsen. He specializes in human performance, everything to do with the power of sleep, the necessity of good recovery, rest, mobile devices, and blue light, and everything that affects human performance. And he's a Master's of Science in that subject. And by the way, Daniel Carney on that first, the coach on the first slide of coaches, he has a PhD specifically in performance nutrition in football. Lucas leads a ball mastery program, which is especially good for players that are younger or that are beginning or mainly playing for fun. And so we've been in discussions with Jim and some of the gentlemen I mentioned earlier in regards to partnering in some particular way. But before talking specifically about that, I just want to give you a snapshot. This is a Netflix-like interface that we developed. And to put it in at first when we developed the platform, when I showed it to Lucas was like, "This isn't quite what I was envisioning, Dad." And in his own words, he described it as it looked too corporate, too business-like. And so I said, "Lucas, what were you envisioning?" And he said, he started to describe it. And to me, it described something like Netflix. And so we started to kind of, in a way, hack the system and develop our own interface. And as you can see here, players get to engage with that. There's the 4 areas of physical, mental, technical, tactical, upcoming master classes that are live from Europe. Some of it's broken up by age, some of it's like coaching resources or parent resources as well. And on the top, there's a feature, just like Netflix, where players can see a preview video of the particular program. A snapshot of something in the pipeline. We developed something called Skill Vault, where every single week new skills will be unlocked for players. For example, these two gentlemen are they're coaches from Juventus's academy in Italy, and they have a company called Art Football, and they view skill development like dance, like an art. And so we have them on this platform releasing 2 skills per week that help players that develop those skills in a systematic way and understanding what those skills are. For fun, we also have a world champion freestyler from Italy, and we also have a cognitive motor skills development coach for dribbling, creativity, two-footedness, and he's from Bayern Munich, and that's Matthias over here. So just to finish off here, the partnership, Football Plus would love to partner with school soccer programs within the High School Champions League. Our missions, as we see it, are related, but they're non-competing. So together we can add tremendous value and create a stronger impact. Footballer Plus and the High School Champions League will begin a pilot program and are looking for high schools that would like to participate in that. With Football Plus, empowered organizations rise above their competition and players grow their love for the beautiful game, and that's the most important thing, while redefining their limits. If I may add as well, they learn, obviously, as coaches and as educators, you all know that they're learning life skills and that are so important for them, for their journeys through the game, through being coached, through working with teammates, etc. And so that's incredibly important as well. So we're excited to explore this partnership to provide a world-class level competitive edge to high school soccer programs and players by offering the best of what we have to offer together. And if there's a high school that's interested, we'd love you to contact Jim or Dave, and then we will include you in the upcoming meeting.
Jeff, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And again, I took the opportunity to visit your website. And like I said, there's a lot of basics there. It's very good. And again, obviously, we have a lot of coaches that are on this call. More to come. And hopefully you'll get some support. Is there questions there, Jeff? No. Okay.
Perry, the only thing that I would say on that too is when I spoke to Jeff, we also talked about how the platform really can be used by other sports also besides just soccer. There's a lot of soccer specific stuff, but all the nutrition stuff and everything else that's on the platform is good for any sport, basically. So it's not just a soccer thing, even though that is the focus. It can be used by tons of athletes.
Yeah, good point, Dave. Very good point.
There's mental performance resources there too.
Yeah.
We also brought a learning strategist online to help players with their academics and to read quicker, to comprehend more what they're reading, to remember, to memorize quicker, to remember for longer periods of time. So there are a wide variety of resources that can be used outside of soccer as well.
Fantastic. Okay, so just moving on to our next guest, we have Drew Broughton. And again, Drew, just very impressive with your website. I got to say that. And you just the video that you show, you talk about players or coaches wearing their heart on their sleeve. That's you. Okay. I mean, I can relate to what you went through, and again, I encourage everyone to go to Drew's website. I think Jim put that out in the agenda, and just watch the video alone to start with, and that will get you hooked. All right?
Yeah.
So, Drew, fantastic having you on, and just like I said, you cope with pressure and how to get results. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Perry. I won't be too long, guys.
You're fine.
Yeah, no. Where do I start? Well, Tom Byer, who I think's on here, introduced me to Jim. Those two were friends, and Jim and I connected. We had a couple conversations. I'm 47 years of age. I left home at 16 to be a footballer. I was on the bench at 16 against Everton in the Premier League when I was doing my schoolwork. We got a knock at the door, a single mother with 2 brothers, and it was the head of youth at Norwich City. He said, "Look, Drew's just scored 5 goals. He's got 32. It's not even Christmas. There's injuries in the first team. Drew's going to be full-time from July at the club as a scholar, but the first team manager's just seen him score 5 goals. He wants him on the bench in 4 days' time against Everton." So we had this meeting around my kitchen table with my 2 brothers, my dog and my mum about being in the Premier League. And so my career started there. A year later, I made my debut at Wolves and scored, went with England under-20s to the World Cup, Michael Owen's group, and then 600 games later around the lower leagues of English football. Came out of the Premier League by 18, and I was in the Championship for a little while, League One, League Two, the rest of the career. What fascinated with me is my best friend during my playing career was part of the Arsenal Invincible squad. Played for England 2 World Cups, so me and him used to speak a lot. And he used to say, "You've got a better mentality than most of the players at Arsenal. You're an animal. You are, I mean, you weigh your food, you have no sugar, you have no alcohol. You know, you're doing sports science before it's even a thing." I mean, I retired 15 years ago. I was driven, I was really, really driven. And I remember being like that from a kid. My mum has now, she's got 4 kids of my own. It's fascinating watching my son. My wife and I were sitting the other night watching I work in tennis a little bit now. And one of the tennis coaches at Wimbledon had sent me this thing. He said, "Have you seen this?" I said, "No." Half an hour on Rublev. I think he's world top 10 now, 12. And we just sat there with my son watching. He's 6, and I had tears streaming down my face. And I've got my little boy like this. And he just had it in him. He smashed up all his rackets. He smashed lockers up. His dad was a boxing champion and had him in the ring. And he's now one of the world's top 15. It's just dark. Like he said, "Nothing's enough for me. I hope my son can find how to control this edge and this desire is burned in him." And I'm sitting there, and it's like, because I'll come off a Zoom in my office in the garden here I'm very blessed today. I work with Premier League players, Champions League players. I've just mentored a Premier League manager for 18 months. So I'm at that level of client, and I'll come in the house at 6, and the very same thing that my guy who's on 300 grand a week and can't find and perform, I'm seeing my 6-year-old's got it. So I need to take him back there. Nothing's enough. He doesn't do losing. He'll sabotage everything. He'll smash the goals up. I need to show him a way of managing that. That's my only role. With the players I work with, they've all lost their edge. The majority have lost their edge. They don't know how to stay on the edge. So they'll flip-flop between Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Marble. Then the ego will come out, and then no one wants to be around that, and they won't play. So it's always fascinated me, and ended my playing career 2011, ended up in a rehab clinic, homeless, bankrupt, divorced. Very grateful for that moment. I think it was the time where the universe went, "Stop. You're going to stop. There's no more contracts. No one's going to give you any money anymore. No, there's no more number 9 on your back. Stop." And I think that moment of stopping for me enabled me to sit there and go, how am I here? I was like a star pupil, captain of all the teams, raised by an incredible mother. My older brother's director of football at Chicago Fire. My younger brother sold 3 companies by 30, travels the world with his family. I come from like an incredible mother, raised us with the best morals, strong. I shouldn't be broken in rehab. And what I realised is I never knew how to navigate professional football and the pressure I would put on myself internally. Never external. I wasn't bothered about crowd and really. I mean, yeah, okay, comments from public would hurt. We didn't have social media, but it was internally. I never knew how it meant so much to me. I never knew how to take that pressure off. So, came out of rehab. I found myself, not in a cheesy way, but I think I certainly realised that fear unaddressed, unconscious, it just ran riot, and I didn't know how to use fear. And fear is a great weapon, but you must know how to use it. If it's too much, and in football it will come externally because the manager's under pressure, so he's nailing you and you can't make mistakes, and it's just this hive it's a nightmare. So came out of that, started working with a bunch of players because a lot of my old teammates were becoming head coaches at that point, were becoming agents, and they, a couple of them rang me and said, "Look, one of my young player at Chelsea, could you work with him?" And it just grew and grew. And 15 years I've been doing that now. I now work with 8 players a year, and and that I stick to that. I've just been to the States last week. I'm working with a young rookie in the major leagues, Cam Smith, down at the Houston Astros, and that's been a fascinating project working with him. I work in golf a little bit, have done. But do you know what's amazing, guys, is that whether you're working in baseball or soccer, or my 6-year-old son, it's all the same stuff. So when I sat in Tampa in Florida in January with Cam's agent. He was down doing some training, ready to get traded for Kyle Tucker. They got switched, and the agent said, "What's the biggest challenge Cam faces?" I said, "Coaches." And they said, "Go on." I said, "Coaches will steal his potential, and they won't know they're doing it." So what will happen is they think that they found the secret. If he's not performing, and they're all trying to add 5%, he doesn't need anything. He needs to stay where he is, and that's the hardest thing in the world. I've been very blessed to work closely with 2 players at Man United for 5 years, and the abiding thing that came out of Cristiano Ronaldo was not the nutrition, it was not the training, it was this man stays who he is, despite all tactical instruction. Most things go in one ear and out the other, and he remains whole. So 2018, one of my buddies was running a Premier League academy. He was again an old teammate. We were playing golf. He said, "What are you doing? Why are the guys outsourcing their work to you? What are we not doing in the club?" So I've got a pro license, I've got everything. I said, "I know you've got everything, but emotionally, you haven't studied yourself enough to understand players." And he said, "Well, help me. You should help us coach." I said, "I don't know if I can help you." They said, "Yeah, but you must have a process." I said, "I don't really." And we sat in the bar afterwards, had a couple of beers. So we had a pen and paper. He said, "Go on, where do you start? I'm a client. I'm not playing well. What do you do?" I said, "Well, it's fear." So we start with fear, then we probably have to look at your ego. Then we probably have to, you need to learn vulnerability. I mean, Mike Tyson and David Goggins will tell you about vulnerability. You have to start dropping the ego down. Now you're into shame. Have you lost yourself with shame? Now you're into authenticity. You being authentic, empathy. So he goes, so I put this course together, put it online, got 20 sign up first time, 8 weeks, 8 modules for coaches and leaders. Because I think if you can affect the coach and leader and give them a deeper understanding of what I do privately in the shadows, and a lot of them are my buddies, so it can help them. The FA, our football association in the UK, which is a big, powerful organisation, but doesn't like too much disruption. But a lot of the coaches were FA affiliated, pro licensed guys. Word got back to them, but then the PFA, our union, we have a union in England. The Players Union contacted me with a new business school they were launching. So I've now been teaching this course for 2 years at degree level to the next rung of English coaches and managers. It coincided with me 2 years ago stepping in with Russell Martin, who was the next exciting English coach at Swansea City. So I did 3 months with Russell at Swansea. He then went to Southampton, and part of that agreement was I would go with him to Southampton. I would give him a day and a half a week at the club, but I mentored him really. Yes, I was there for a couple of the players if they were struggling, but it was really, I'm starting to work with the leaders, and I'd be involved in these fascinating conversations where in the big auditorium room the coach would break down the game at the weekend. It was the year before we went to the Premier League, so we broke all the records, 35 games, 30 games unbeaten, went to the Premier League. And that was an incredible year for me, because I'm now sitting with a leader and you're watching the deep conversations with him directly influence the pitch constantly, real time, like seismic shift on a conversation I'd have with him about his marriage or the way the CEO spoke to him and he accepted it. I said, I wouldn't be accepted. Did you? Do you agree with what the CEO said? No, I disagree with everything he said. But I said, but you took it. And what do I do? I said, well, what does courage do? He said, courage goes and challenges. You might need courage if you're going to ask for courage from the players. You might need it yourself. So it was just this constant. We were ex-teammates, so we were stepping in. The players were responding. They were free, and so that was an incredible 18 months. So that finished a year ago. His leadership team, 5 of them, despised the guy who was the manager was relying on, but there was no ego with me. I was coming in a day and a half a week. So we separated. He lost 16 in a row in the Premier League and he got fired. I never underestimate energy in human beings, and I never underestimate authenticity. So, yeah, when Jim said, we were talking, Jim and Tom had been come on and stuff, and so Jim said, "Would you come on and talk?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come and talk, and no problem, I'll come and share." I came to the US back in 2021 because one of the guys who came through my course was a chap called John Smith up at Cornell University, the head coach, men's soccer coach there. And I knew little about college soccer, but went up there. He asked me to come and work with the team for a year, and we managed to do it. And that was a fascinating experience for me because they broke the records that year, 40 years, and etc. And they drafted 4 players to the MLS. Then men's soccer and men's football, men's baseball, women's lacrosse all wanted to get involved in what we were doing. and now we had a problem. So, it was fascinating. Did that for the last 2 and a bit years. John and I still speak a lot. I created a company about 2021 because it grew too big for me. I was too busy. I got to a limit of people I could work with, but there was still a need for it. Doing a lot of stuff in the corporate world, and grew a company called Sweat and Courage, which were the 2 words that I got led to in rehab. And they are kind of my mantra for living. I think it's all we've got. Can you empty the tank in everything you do, and can you have the courage in football to take the ball constantly? I think there's a lot of nonsense around tactics and everything else. I've worked with too many top players who don't want to know any of that, and then I've worked with top kids who they have everything in them. They can see it, they can do it, they can feel it. So yeah, Sweat and Courage it launched then, and it continues to grow. We're now at 9 coaches and 7 support staff, and I've got a business partner here, and we have an app which I was listening to the Football Plus thing. It's quite similar. We're in a corporation supporting the high performers, football teams. Hours of content. They can book time with me or one of the coaches for Zoom calls. We get guest speakers on Premier League players, my friends, managers. How do we help guys navigate this path? Because all I'm doing all day is getting them and putting them back on, getting them, putting them back on. So that's been my journey. But I will. I didn't really know what I was coming on to. I do a bunch of these things, so I thought I'll jump on and have a conversation, have a chat, and see. It's good to meet you all.
Drew, that's fantastic. In fact, just watching your video on the website, and again, I haven't watched the whole documentary of Christian Pulisic, but I did watch bits and pieces. And there's a time he's sitting in the golf cart, and he talks about his own admission that he doesn't have the cockiness or the ego.
Yeah.
Get to the next level.
Yeah.
What are your comments there?
Yeah, it's brilliant because as a social media, we've got a guy who does my social media. I'm 47 with kids. I hate social media, but I love it as well. So we have a Dropbox folder, and they pop all these clips in, and I go through them on a Monday typically. And that Pulisic one was in there on the golf buggy a few weeks ago, and I looked at it, and to go to that, I thought, well, there it is. It's the vessel. And right now, Alcaraz, the young tennis player at Wimbledon, there's a bunch of stuff you'll find on him. And it's exactly the same thing. His agent's like, I don't want him to lose his edge.
Yeah.
But he's losing his edge. But we don't want him too nice. But we don't want too much ego, but we need some ego. So there's just this whole confusion. I look at Pulisic, and this is how simply I'll put it. I did 2 camps with the US team. Just after Greg Berthold left after the Qatar World Cup, there was that gap of 4 or 5 months. I went and did 2 camps with the US team, and I was asked how I would possibly work with any players, because you know what players are like, they don't really trust anyone or feel safe, and as I wouldn't do, you think everything's going to get back to the manager, and you don't want to appear weak, and so I just talked like I've done here and put my number in the WhatsApp group. I was in a hotel for a week, and anybody wanted to grab time, they could just reach out to me, and honestly I had 14 guys on the first night, and I won't mention names, it'd be inappropriate, but all I saw, and it's a common theme, take Pulisic, sensitive and creative. And what I've learned about creativity is the same as you have to be sensitive to be creative. It's feel. It's what made Tiger Woods so outstanding. He could be creative and feel-based, but he's also an alpha animal as well, like Jordan, so he had everything in the armoury. But so sensitive and creative, Pulisic. Humble, which is magnificent. We want to be humble. That's important. What he thinks is ego and cockiness, but what I think it is courage. And it's not. It doesn't mean he's without courage because he's a top player. But it would mean more courage. How many risks are you taking? Are you ready to stand out? Are you ready to push back on teammates? Are you ready to stand? because if you go searching for cockiness, then it's false and fake. I did that for years. It runs out of juice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've always been fascinated with humans and human behaviour, and we are one. So it's like, well, how do we manage any of this stuff? So yeah, it's.
And again, Drew, sometimes it just takes one incident. I remember, not the harp on
Yeah.
him, but obviously I do follow him. He's playing for AC Milan, and obviously he's the guy that's taking the PKs.
Yeah.
And it was his turn to take it. He had the ball in his hand. One of the players come up and says, "Hey, I'm taking it."
So what happened?
Next thing you know, it's like, well, hang on a second. You know what? That cost us the game. All right?
Do you know what I saw? There was a young player I sat with in America at college. He was a football player, American football, and it was the same thing. The coach said he's outstanding, but he lets his teammates walk over him.
Yeah.
So I was in a conversation with this guy, and he said, "But I was brought up to be a good Christian boy." I said, "Well, I think we need to discuss Christianity." I said, the whole point of Christianity, as far as I know, is Jesus died on the cross for authenticity. It's what I believe in. I said, "You don't believe in what you're doing." So we had this incredible conversation, and he was like, "But I was taught to be humble." I said, "But that's not humble. That's a lack of self-esteem. When Pulisic has got the ball there, hey, it's my penalty, go."
Yeah.
As you know, but so there is this drilling in of being humble and being kind, and it's all very confused. And I see it in the younger players in England coming out of the academies. This player the other day I've been working with in the off-season, Leicester bought him for $5 million from Chelsea at 18. And I said to him on the Zoom, "When did you start losing yourself?" He said, 12, 13. I said, "And what happened?" He said, I went to Chelsea at 12 or 13. I was bought from Wimbledon and went again. I said, "And what happened?" He said, "Well, it was just, you're at Chelsea now. There's a Chelsea way." I said, "Oh yeah, and who enlightened you on the Chelsea way?" It probably wasn't John Terry or Frank Lampard. He said, "No." I said, "So, we don't do that here. You're too aggressive. You risk the ball too much. So here we are, 6 years on, I'm resuscitating him. It's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Let's get back there. And he's gone back into pre-season, and he's been 3 days back at Leicester. And he said, "Shit, man, it's already started here. We see you as a 6, so we don't like the 6 taking too many risks." I said, "But I've got an unbelievable long pass. It's why they paid $5 million. I said, "Hit the long pass. You've got to take risks. You're running a business, you coach it, risks." So, yeah, it's navigating this line of humility. We want respectful, humble, hard-working guys, but you have to have self-respect. And if you lose that, you're finished.
I agree. Yeah, you got to
It
step out of the box
fascinates
sometimes.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Jim reached out to me, I said, "Well, look, maybe there's something I can give you guys and just help some kids or whatever you're doing." So we just got in this conversation, and yeah, so it sounds brilliant what you guys are doing.
Yeah. And again, obviously I'm very fortunate that I'm working with players, at different levels, not just in high school,
Yeah.
but players in college, stuff like that. But very impressed with your website, as I said at the beginning. And again, Drew, I'm glad we got this opportunity for you to share with our coaches, because again, these coaches that we have on this call are very, very experienced.
Yeah.
All right? And again, we're all learning. All right. And it's one of those things where it's just, not just physically or tactically, a lot of it's got to do with mental. All right.
Well, it's really interesting, Barry. Like when I started teaching this course inside our PFA, we had Graham Potter, the current. Yeah, he came on to be a guest speaker to the students because they're all current next players doing this degree, and that was November time. And one of the players said, "What was the biggest challenge managing Chelsea?" He said, "The selfishness of the top players." I struggled with that. So afterwards, there was a bit of a breakout. He came over. We were a similar age. We played around the lower leagues, and we got talking. He said, "It's impressive what you're doing, Drew." I said, "Well, I don't need to tell you it's impressive what you're doing. You're a Premier League manager, Graham." But we had this chat, and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "I've got to go." I said, "You did struggle with the selfishness of the top players. You did you?" He said, "Well, yeah. It was Thiago Silva, some of these guys. It was difficult to understand." I said, "You're not selfish." He said, "Sorry." I said, "You're not selfish. Would you not rather play golf than go on a date with your wife?" I said, "No, I'd rather play golf than go on a date with my wife." Now, the tricky thing is, Graham, we've got to try and do both. I said, "And that's the battle." Anyway, I said, "I've got to go." So I left. I was running to the train. Next day, I get a call. Can you meet him? And we had this incredible 5 hours where it was like, that just like, what is it in me as a coach that couldn't relate to Thiago Silva? I said, oh, you tell me. So it was just, I'm always trying to provoke. I'm not right. You're just trying to provoke. Because if you get fired because you can't relate to the top players, then the challenge would be in your off time, wow, I need to do a course on how to relate to the top players if I'm to go back into that role. But I don't think that's out there, right? So it was like, can we just provoke this thought and this introspection? And so it always becomes challenging.
It is.
Drew,
Go.
can I jump in, Barry?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
No, great stuff. Love it. And I have seen the Pulisic documentary, and it's very insightful. I did just watch Thomas Mueller. Ziggy, I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah.
He just did an interview with Fox and Kate, the host there.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I saw a clip, but he's quite a deep thinking guy. What
Yeah, I
came
was
up?
going to say, he's philosophical, and he's at that point in his career right now. He's 36. I mean, it was interesting to see him play yesterday for Bayern because he's leaving Bayern. But take the time to, I think you would find that very interesting because he is a bit of a philosopher.
He is.
And it's a German style of philosophy. We won't go into Nietzsche or anything like that. But outstanding.
It'd be good though if you wanted to go to Nietzsche. I'd love that. Yeah. Not today.
So take the time to everyone.
Thank
take
you,
the time to
Jim.
see-
Hey, Jim,
it was on
Jim, what is that
Paramount
on?
when I saw it.
Jim-
I saw it on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
One of those interviews that she does, and she's excellent as well.
She's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find that on YouTube if we. I'll type that in and I'm sure something will come up.
Yeah.
So FC Cincinnati's tried to sign him, and
Oh,
they can't do the deal. So because again, he's not finished playing. Just got to work it out. And I'm not saying it's going to be in MLS, but I just know that there's a couple of clubs, and FC Cincinnati being one of them. They were chasing him, and the CEO there, Jeff Birding, says until he signs with somebody, he says he's still available. So we're going to continue the work. So
I think you bet. I think Thomas wants probably a little bit more money than Cincinnati has,
You never know.
imagine so.
and that's based on that interview he gave. He
Yeah.
didn't come out and say it, but he alluded to certain things, and so fascinating stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
That's right. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you. And Drew, thank you very much. Fantastic. All right.
Thanks, Karen.
Again, like I said, as soon as you go to the website, guys, and just sit down and scroll down, play the video, it's catch it. All right, catch it. Make sure you want to do that.
Thanks,
I don't think that. I'm just looking at everybody that's on. Yeah. So fortunately, Tim got on here. Tim Mack. So fortunate. Well, again, we got a little bit of time here. Anybody else with some comments? Yes, go ahead. Kevin, take off.
Can you guys hear me okay? Let's start, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay. So over the last few weeks, I have sent info about this concept to probably 100 people that I know after going through all my LinkedIn and Facebook connections and everything. And there's been nothing but positive vibes about it. And then people saying, well, how do we make this happen in our state with these rules, et cetera? And I said, guys, from what I can gather in the calls I've been on, maybe creative way of addressing just about any limitations, and it'd probably be harder in some places than others. But the groundswell of replies have been nothing but, man, we're excited about this. And what can I do to help? And even if I send it to people that are now no longer coaching, they have people they've forwarded to. And so I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years' time we've got a whole boatload of people chasing this thing.
Kevin, just to comment on top of that, so thank you very much for bringing that point up. I was contacted by, I think Michael McAlone is from St. Louis. He's a very good friend of Don Dragi's, who coached Terry Micklerhead in high school. And I think Mike McAlone played at CBC.
Yeah.
Okay, so Terry, he is now with the USL team, Dallas Athletica, in
Right.
Dallas.
Right.
And he reached out to me. He says, Perry, he says, the sporting director, Brian, I can't think of his last name, we're going to connect tomorrow. And he says he's very fascinated. He saw this high school Champions League, and he wants to know, more about it and things like that. So here we got a professional club that hasn't even kicked the ball yet, but he's already reached out and to say, look, you know what, we like the idea of this high school Champions League. Maybe it's a way for us to identify players, he wants to get creative. So I'm going to have that conversation with him tomorrow. I'll try to bring Jim in the conversation also if he's available. But again, Kevin, just what you're saying there, it's just, it's catchy, starting to spread. There's another gentleman, when I was at the St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame dinner in February, Jim Bokern, who was out in Denver. And again, Jim's obviously, we're going to get on the phone with him with a couple coaches there, so hopefully we can get something started up in Colorado. And again, I don't know enough about it, but also Jim Hart brought up Pittsburgh. He said there was another location there that, talking there.
Yeah, so it's good stuff.
Yes.
And I just want to thank the two presenters. And
yes,
if I had started asking questions, we wouldn't be off until sometime tomorrow afternoon. But I'm fascinated by all that stuff and would love to talk shop anytime, anywhere. But I will say this, Drew. I've had this belief for a long time, and it's a quick true or false question, but it might lead you into a half an hour of a conversation. I'm asked a lot about coaches or managers that I think are particularly good at what they do, and I do not think their knowledge of tactics, technique, and health and all this other stuff is a defining factor. In my humble opinion, I think it's man management and people management. And as high school coaches, we know from day one we're in the business of coaching human beings first, and soccer just happens to be a piece of that puzzle. And I think sometimes when that gets lost and the human connections get lost, that's when these struggles present themselves. And I played for 2 years under Bruce Arena in college, and then I was a grad assistant with him. And people know that, and they think there's some secret sauce. I go, look, here's what I will say about the guy. He's not the same coach he was 45 years ago, else he's dead in the water. But he's always had a knack for pushing the right buttons at the right time with the right people to bring the best out of them. Now, how do you actually teach that to somebody else? I don't have an answer for that, but I think
that's what fascinated with me. Because,
he's very authentic, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but what fascinated me is if you just stay, being an England mark, if we look at, let's say, Ferguson, Klopp, Guardiola, the three big names that have taken over English football. Wenger, you could say, but let's go on those three. None of the pro license, not one aspect is to go, okay, how do we get the emotional skills of these top managers, the man management? We're going to try and learn the tactical skills. We're going to learn the technical skills. Physical, we outsource that. But how do we can't become them.
That's a glaring gap in the curriculum of anybody who's coaching coaches.
And that's exactly what I wanted to create and have created. And it's all I believe it to be is a reconnection with yourself so you can then connect with them.
Yeah.
And that's hard work. It's not easy. It's like a physical pre-season.
No, it's not easy.
Powerful.
If I'm coaching Christian Pulisic, my goal is to try to help him be the best version of himself in the story. And it's interesting, even I've read some stuff on the internet the last couple of years, with world-class coaches, and some of them talking about how my job isn't to go heavy into the tactics. It's my job to help them celebrate the feel for the game and go like that. And so it's an interesting, I don't think it's an either-or proposition.
No.
But I grew up in an era where there weren't many people that knew much about the game, and there were a couple of coaches in my area that clearly had more knowledge of the game than most others, but their teams didn't win very often. And I always thought it had to do with the relationship pieces on the field more than the intellectual pieces on the chalkboard.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. You know what? I feel personally that a lot of these coaches that are successful, they're gifted. They have gifts.
Yeah.
One thing I think Bruce Arena, the gift that he has, is that you take 25 players that he has on roster, that 23rd, 24th, and 25th player feels like he's up there in the first 10. All right, it's a gift that he has of bringing everybody on board and playing for each other. So,
I agree.
Especially with that, he is.
I agree.
So,
Drew,
Kevin, thank you.
If I could say something, Drew, I could really identify with some of what you're talking about. My son Lucas is kind of going through a moment like that. He just came back from a gap year in Germany, and he's rethinking everything now. And and he deals with fear, and it's crippling for him.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah,
and
so it's very common.
But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that other people are struggling with that, and then he has the sensitivity that you talked about. He's always been super sensitive, almost like autistic sensitive, like like
me too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so and then there's also like a cultural aspect that comes into play. Like there's the Chinese, like we're from a Chinese stance. So there's the perfection,
the toughness,
and then also in Asian culture there's a value to not stand out.
Yeah.
So he watched the F2 freestylers in Japan in a YouTube video, and then it said like in Japan there's a saying that the nail that sticks out gets hammered, and so he goes, Dad, just help me to understand.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to stand out. I can't. There's just something culturally that will make him never not want to stand out. And so there's these things that it's hard for him to be like super aggressive or to he's way more geared to be technical and to be in a safe environment. And then he has vision to see things that the average player can't see and to execute it. But then he's crippled by the fear and doesn't want to make mistakes.
One thing I know, and I'll just leave you on this, and it must be so hard as you start to go into cultural elements of things. It has to be. You're trying to undo belief systems, so I don't really go near that. People can't. But one thing I learned for myself is that the breeding ground for fear is a lack of authenticity. And the greatest measure of courage is authenticity. So it starts to get really interesting at that point. Fear can't get you as much if you're living authentically. There was a sea change in Marcus Rashford in the year that Ronaldo left Man United. He scored 32 goals, best year of his career. He's not managed to do it since. He's not lazy, and he just watches Instagram. All he's been doing all summer is training 3 times a day. So all the press are completely wrong. He's not being paid too much money. He's not lazy. He is a very sensitive guy, and he observed. He sat next to Ronaldo for a year at training and watched the way Ronaldo conducted himself as a man, not as a footballer, as a man. And in that year after, there was 3 incidents where Rashford missed the meetings, overslept. They put him on the bench. He'd come on and scored the winner. His interview afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, I overslept. It's one of those things." He was laughing, and they'll find me. Now, I'm not saying that's right, but it was also almost this little boy breaking out and going, "Yeah, I'm just loose now, man. 32 goals, and I'm going to be me. I'm going to do Marcus." And I think that was what was really interesting. But if you don't know what it is you found, you can't hang on to it. And I don't think Rashford knew what he'd found. Whereas Ronaldo knew its complete authenticity constantly. And, Ten Hag shamed Ronaldo, and Ronaldo walked down the tunnel, got his car and left Old Trafford.
Yeah.
I think it was an incredible message to the young players. You stand your ground. But anyway, gone for ages. Yeah.
All right, we have an important kickoff right around the corner, do we not?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
But again, I just want to thank everyone for this, opportunity to see everyone, obviously chime in, give us some updates on, obviously the metro areas. Again, and thanks everyone for speaking up. Ziggy, thank you for giving the players the opportunity that you gave them. I hope that continues, and hopefully we can, spread the same thing that you're doing, to some of the other areas, because it's one step at a time, but we'll get there. So, So again, thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, and we'll be in touch. And again, if you go to Jim Hart's last email that he sent, both Jeff and Drew's websites, their links are on there. So, go straight to there, and anyway, to be in touch with these guys, obviously, go through Jim or myself. All right, guys?
Thanks, Barry.
Again, Jim, DeNoble, I'm going to take your thing. USA win. Thank you.
Boom, boom.
Okay, guys. We'll see you.
Good one.
All right, take care. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's